Yes, it is live. Yes. No, it is okay. You can mute or you don't have to mute. It is fine. It is doesn't affect.
Okay, no, I'll mute because I think sometimes I might accidentally create a slight disturbance depending on how sensitive.
Okay, sure. You can do that. Okay, so let's begin with your questions. So let me open that up, Federico. So before I answer to it, I will answer to, there's a person called Ravi, and he had asked something similar to it. So he wanted to know whether Nibbana is also part of Dhamma. And the answer is yes, it is. So in the Mula Pariyaya Sutta, if somebody were to go through it, Buddha talks about 24 things. And the 24th is Nibbana. Even though it is asankata, it means unconditioned, it's still a Dhamma. So there are 24 things. So Mula Pariyaya Sutta gives the detail about all the 24. Maybe some other time we can go through that if somebody is really interested in knowing root of all things. What causes us or a person to come into this samsara? I think that is the best sutta to understand. Buddha explains by what is Puttujana, a normal worldling, then Sekha, who is a person who is in training, Arhat, one who has completed the training, and one Samma Sambuddha. So he'll give differences of how each one of these 4 categories would work. It's a nicest sutta. Now coming back to your question, Valerio, so let me tell you what is Nibbana in the first place. So let's start with the meaning and definition, and then it will be easy to go further on that. The word Nibbana comes from 2 separate words, Ni and Bana. Bana means to bond, to join. Nibbana means to disjoin. There is no longer any joining with anything. It's actually called as bound. So samsara means something which is bound to itself, or just like a wooden peg has been put and a cow is left to graze, but the rope is tied so that it cannot run away, and the cow can keep on roaming around the same place, going in circles. In the same way, the bana, that bonding is like that. You like a stump, and that being is circling there only. So the meaning of Nibbana is to remove that bonding. So in one of the sutta, Buddha gives a simile. He says that there are 2 oxen who are pulling plowing the field in a village. And while it is flowing, if one of the ox were to pull the other one, that other ox also goes towards that side. And when this ox were to pull the other one, let's say this is a white color and that's a black color, so as soon as the black color pulls in, the white color goes along with that because they are bound together. And if the black color were to pull to one side, and white color would go, and the white color pulls to one side, the black color would go along with it. What if that ox is released from that field? It will run wherever it wants. It is no longer bound, and that state is Nibbana. So this is the definition and a simile. Now, how do we experience Nibbana? Now, you experience Nibbana every day, every night. When you go to deep sleep, there is no you, and there are no five senses also, which are operational. And that is the closest experience of Nibbana. But that is in avidya, ignorance, meaning you don't know how you went into that. And the whole process of Buddha Dhamma is to make sure that what you are getting slipped into that deep sleep, where you feel refreshed, but you don't remember anything after you come out of it. In the same way, you can go into the cessation. So there are four kinds of cessation which Buddha explains. One cessation wherein you, through the Brahma Vihara. The second cessation is through the Shunya. And the third cessation is through Akinchayatana, that is through the nothingness. And the fourth cessation is through Neva Sanya, Sanya Vedete Nirodha. That is, there is no perception nor any feeling. Now the fourth one is equivalent to the deep sleep state, but the other three are not with relation to deep sleep, but yet you get the same effect. So this is explained in Mahavidyala Sutta. So if somebody were to go through that Mahavidyala Sutta, then he or she can understand what it is, and we have covered that in the earlier sections. So that is what you need to do. Now, coming to your questions, which are very interesting. So we'll go from the beginning. It says what you sent today. With regards to Nibbana, my exact doubt is that I have the preconceived notion that is the experience when all six consciousness temporarily stop. So if they stop momentarily, there won't be any seeing, hearing, thinking, etc. Also, there is something called a cessation of perception and feeling. Is this something different from Nibbana? The same? Is it different, and how so? Now, this is what I explained about the deep sleep. When all the six consciousness in that senses no longer exist. So there is no enjoyer, there is no sufferer. There is no experiencer, and there is no experiencer or experienced as well. So you wouldn't find anyone experiencing anything when you are in that cessation, like the deep sleep. So what is this Nibbana in terms of Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arhat? What does really it means? If you are finding peace, even for a moment, or you have just experienced a little bit of peace, where you know there is something called as peace, vimukti, and that is what Nibbana is all about. Just like when you go to sleep, deep sleep, and you feel refreshed, and you are not having any condition for that. You are not saying that, oh, okay, no, if this condition is matched, then I will go to sleep. No. You first feel extremely sleepy, and then you hit your head on the pillow, and after some time, you're gone. You didn't really meditate to go there. In the same way, you, even though interacting with the world outside, sometimes because that you know Dhamma, you are not agitated or you are not aspiring anything at that point in time, and the mind does not jump from one object to another object, and that peace, if you find and you are feeling a blissful like in, or refreshed like in deep sleep, where you have lot of energy and you're not feeling tired and you are feeling fresh, then you have touched that Nibbana, which is asankata. What it means is that it is unconditioned. That means when you are there, it doesn't ask for any condition, meaning it doesn't make you feel anything at all on any object. You are not particularly bothered about any object. Okay, so in the general sensual realm, we are associating things with the senses. But when in this state, there is no sense to experience. This little experience is what the Sotapanna would experience. So he knows there is something which is unconditioned, and he knows everything else is conditioned. So it's called as asankata dhatu and sankata dhatu. Sankata dhatu means everything in this world which is driven out of senses are sankata, conditioned, whereas this one is unconditioned, but yet as Dhamma. So I can't then say I am in Nibbana or I am Nibbana and all that. That is wrong. That's what Mula Pariyaya Sutta is all about. So I suggest everyone to go through that once. It is in Majjhima Nikaya 1, Mula Pariyaya Sutta. It's a long sutta, but it's a nice one. It explains each of the realms of existences and how a person grasps onto it and associates the mind with it, and including Nibbana. So this is the answer to your question about Sotapanna, Sakadagami, whatever you had put earlier. 1 minute, I think. Okay. Let's say that one is a Sotapanna wanting to go to Sakadagami, or a Sakadagami wanting to go to Anagami. Clearly, to become a Sakadagami, sensual desire and ill will have to be weakened, and from Sakadagami to Anagami, they are totally gone. So my doubt is it that this defilement weaken and only then you go to cessation and Nibbana? Or is it that only when the mind enters cessation and Nibbana, defilements go? Okay, so now we need to also understand what is this definition. After we know what is Nibbana, what it takes for us to go there. So you have to do something called a shunya of raga, dvesha and moha, greed, hatred and delusion. Now I'll give you a very simple exercise to do. This is for me and for everyone. You have a plate, and on that you might be putting rice and curry or dal or whatever you are eating. Now there is a greed in that plate because you're identifying the food, that it is a Goan food or a Maharashtrian food or a Kannadiga food or an Indian food or a Gujarati food or whatever it is. Or it is continental food, an American food, an European food and Sri Lankan food and like that. It's just a food, but it has several names and several kind of identification, including the object itself. Meaning, this is what it is, and this is how it is prepared, and all of that are condition based. And these conditions, when we put on that food, creates passion. So now we have to understand the following terms very clearly. before we really get into that state, which in ignorance the sleep takes you there, but in non-sleep state, how do you really get into it? So for first term, use this Nibbida. Nibbida translates into extinguishment. Okay, that's the first word we need to understand. Nibbida in Pali corresponds to disillusionment. Then Nirodha, it from two words Nir and Uddha. Nir is removing, Uddha means arising, meaning anything that has arisen will not arise any longer if you do something about it. Then Viraga, V plus Raga is Vita Raga, meaning removal of Raga. Then Abhinyaya. Abhinya, Abhi means higher, like in the case of Abhidhamma, Abhi. Anya is other than. That means knowing other than the normal is called as Abhinya. Upasamaya. Upa means near, Sama means equal. That means creating equanimity within oneself. Sambodhaya. Sam plus Bodha. Bodha means Four Noble Truths, or Bodhi, one who knows the knowledge. And Sam, Bodha means knows every part of the knowledge. Then Nibbana, the word what we are trying to search. That means when we have Nibbida, then Viraga, Nirodha, Abhinya, Upasamaya, Nibbanaya. Or if we take the Etan Santan Etan Panitan, then he says Sabba Sankhara Samato Sabbupadi Patinisaggo Tanhakhayo. The craving is removed. Virago Nirodho Nibbana. So what it actually means is that once the greed is removed, or lobha, and in this case raga. Raga means unquenching thirst for something, that experience what I'm searching it to be. So this search doesn't end, and I want it all the time. So if because of that, if I don't get it, I have dvesha, and assuming that that is what it leads to my happiness is the moha. So when we have the raga, dvesha, moha removed, what you get is Nibbana. So he says in the, if we look at another sutta where he explains what is meaning of parinyeya. Parinyeya means to fully know. There is a sutta called Parinyeya Sutta, and then he explains parinya. What is that knowing? Knowing that raga khayo, that is reduction of raga, dosa khayo, removal or reduction in the dosa. Dosa means not the dosa what we eat, but dosa means the dvesha or the hatredness, and moha, delusion. Raga khayo, dosa khayo, moha khayo. And these when are not there, you attain Nibbana. Just like what you were in the sleep. Okay. Now, this is how one gets the experience more and more from Sotapanna to Sakadagami. That means his Raga, Dvesha, Moha is reduced. Then from Sakadagami to Anagami, it is even more reduced. And from Anagami to Arhat, there is no Raga, no Dvesha, no Moha. So that means he is in Nibbana all the time. Hope I have answered so far on the initial questions and this. And then we come to the other one. Cessation of perception and feeling, that is the jhana. And that also is what Nibbana is all about. So, like I said, we need to go through the Mahavidyala Sutta. There are 4 ways what he says. The same Vimukti is called as Cheto Vimukti, is also called as Nibbana. That Cheto Vimukti is what you would experience in 4 different ways. And one of that is this Sanya Vedete Nirodha. And he just explains before that what's the difference between a person who is dead and a person who has entered into cessation of feeling and perception, or perception and feeling. Sanya Vedete Nirodha. So Sariputta explains that in a dead person, the Kaya Sankhara is not there, the Vachi Sankhara is not there, the Mano Sankhara is not there. There is no Ayu, life as in, how much years he can live, that is not there, Ayu. Usma means heat. The body heat is not there, and the senses have disintegrated. Whereas in the person who has entered into the cessation of perception and feeling, Sanya Vedete Nirodha, the Kaya Sankhara is not there, the Vachi Sankhara is not there, the Mano Sankhara is also not there. However, the life faculty is existing, that means Ayu is there, Usma, the heat is also there, and the senses are very pleasing. So the difference between the deep sleep state and the Sanya Vedete Nirodha is that in the deep sleep your senses are not shining. They look more like a dead person, but only breathing is there. On that basis we are trying to say that the person is alive. If everybody is sleeping, then nobody is alive at all. Whereas in the case of the Sanya Vedete Nirodha, his senses are shining, meaning his body almost shines. So that's the meaning of it. So there's in Sanskrit it's called as Kanti, meaning what shines. So then there is a question asked that how does one enter into it? And then he says that it's very simple. You need to first have animitta. Okay, you need to have animitta. Animitta means signless. It's like an on and off switch. If you have a sign, like I have a sign called as Vilas, and I recognize myself as Vilas, and with reference to Vilas becomes Vilas home, Vilas chair, Vilas table, Vilas computer, Vilas wife, Vilas son, and all that. This is called as nimitta. You symbolize. Animitta means no symbolization. There is no Vilas, so there is no chair. If there is no chair, there is no table, there is no computer, there is nothing like that of Vilas. So animitta, Appanihita, meaning he gets totally engrossed in the jhana. And then there is a sankappa. So puppe sankappa is what he said. That means he says that I want to come back in 4 days' time, and he disappears. So the mind is completely switched off. It's not that consciousness is not there. Consciousness is very much there. So he says, he asked this question, then the consciousness is dead? No, consciousness is very much there, but the person is not there. So if something walks, something is crawling, something is happening, nothing that person would know. Something similar to when we go to sleep, if the mosquito is there or something is there and it has walked and it has bitten or whatever, you would not know. In the same way, this is, in that case, it is involuntary. Whereas in the Sanya Vedate Nirodha, it is voluntarily you are going. So this is what it is. So that is how we do the Sanya Vedate Nirodha. So that answers. Namo Buddhaya. Yeah, Namo Buddhaya. So this is what it is. Okay. And what other question? I think okay, so Valerio, is there any other question with relation to this? I think I've covered all from the text what you had sent.
So the question that I sent like just 1 hour before the class, or 2 hours before the class, like say supposing hypothetically if someone is a Sotapanna, then do you get to see dependent origination exactly after you come out from cessation? I mean, I read this somewhere, I don't know whether it's true. I can't quote the text or anything.
See, the Paticca you will be able to see in everything beyond a certain stage. See, I'll give you an example. While I was reading through your question, I was able to see the Paticca in the food. So I can tell you how I could see it. Maybe that would answer to your question. So now there is a plate and there is a food on my plate, and then I am seeing how helpless the being is. Actually, because the being is eating and has no idea what that food is going to do in his stomach. But if I am having craving, I am enjoying and relishing that food. Okay, so then the first noble truth is that jati pi dukkha, I am able to see. I am able to see the dukkha. In a normal worldling, when I'm a normal worldling, let us say Puttujana, I am eating food. I'm eating dal and rice and sabzi and all kind of things, pickle and the papad and all that, and I'm relishing the food, I'm naming the taste and all of that. But the aspect that needs to be understood is that I'm totally lost in that food. But when I come to Buddha Dhamma, let's say I have passed beyond the Sotapanna and I'm reached Sakadagami, I will be able to see Paticca in everything almost instantly. So while I was walking along with your question on my terrace in the afternoon, I was just taking a walk after food. I was able to penetrate into how the jati, jara, marana, soka, parideva, all that is happening, because now I've eaten the food, I have no idea what the food is going to do, and it is going to enter into jara. Jara means it keeps on decaying, or decay is not the right word, it keeps on reducing or consuming is I think a good English word to use. And then after that again hunger starts, marana, and then soka, parideva, all that is going to happen. So jati pi dukkha, jara pi dukkha, and all that. Now I was also looking at the cause of that kind of suffering for food, because of the tanha, craving. So in the food I could see all the three. Kama tanha means the sensual taste plus the sight, enjoying the dal and rice and sabzi and all that. Then the smell, touch, and not much on the sound, but still we enjoy that sound also. So all the five senses, and the dal and rice and curry and all that is the name which is given, which the mind is enjoying. So all the six senses are connected. The vijnana is connecting all of them. Now that enjoyment has kama in that, so there is relishing, whereas actually we all are struggling with food. Honestly, we are doing everything for the feeding of oneself and making oneself comfortable. That's all what we are trying to do. But what it does, kama, is to make you enjoy. Think that you are enjoying that food. Then bhavatanaha, it should have been like this. The taste should have been like this. It's so nice, but still it could have been like this. And vibhavatanaha, I don't want all or any one of these. It should be in different way and all that. Then we can see where all does it attach. It attaches to the eye, it attaches to the rupa which is coming in. So the eye is now connected with the rice and dal and curry and pickle and papad and sabzi and all that. So we can do that. Then we can look at the nirodha. So when we see the suffering, then the nirodha automatically happens, because now I am able to see food as just food. And you can see the helplessness. After eating, there is no guarantee that the stomach is able to digest it. And even if it digests, there is no guarantee that it is going to assimilate in a proper way. And even if it assimilates properly, you don't know that how much nutrition value you got out of it. Even after that nutrition value has come, you can't really promise that you will not get any disease. And even if you were not to get any disease, you cannot really promise that how healthy that is. And even if you were to know that how healthy that is, you cannot stop from feeling hunger again. Simple. Again I have to eat after a few hours. So this eating business is not going to stop. So now the nirodha can be seen. Meaning don't have any tanha. And then sammaditthi, the first of the path. So what is sammaditthi here? Sammaditthi here is that the food is just four elements. There's nothing called as dal, rice or sabzi or all that. It's just four elements. And that is truly, it's a fact. Not that I have to imagine it. It's a fact. Rice soft is there, but it was hard because of it went to the cooker, it became soft, which is part of the patavi. Then the dal is watery, so apo. It's hot, tejo. It has air, vayu. It's enclosed in space. So I am eating all the five elements. And the body is made out of same five elements. So what is happening is it's getting replenished. Whatever quantity of these 5 elements are gone, it's getting replenished. So then I can look at Samma Sankappa and all that. I can really see. So this is how one can see Paticamutpada in anything you do. So it need not be that once or twice or thrice or whatever you put. Also an example will come out of Sakadagami Nirodha, for example. Will you see the link or dependent 2 times? And Nibbana-gami Nirodha, it's not like that. You will be able to see this Paticamutpada cycle in everything. In every walk of life, you can find it. So I had not read this question because you sent it in the evening, but I had this experience in the afternoon because I was thinking about your question on Nibbana. So I had this experience at that point in time. So it really doesn't matter whether 3 times, 2 times, 1 time or whatever time. If you are able to penetrate Paticamutpada, then you know what the reality is, because it gives with the 4 Noble Truths also. So both will come together. When you are investigating the 4 Noble Truths, you will get Paticamutpada. When you are investigating Paticamutpada, you will be able to see the 4 Noble Truths. They both are interlinked, basically. Did it answers?
Yeah, you did answer the question in a way, I guess. Yes, I mean, in some way, how you mentioned about food, even I have all these thoughts about food because, for example, I live alone as a bachelor, and I know it's a total pain to worry about food, etc., because I don't know how to cook anything. So yes, this constant dukkha with food, just, observing it, I totally get your point. But with regards to seeing the 12 links of dependent origination, yeah, I get what you mean. I understood your example right now. I guess I just thought that seeing these 12 links of dependent origination would be something like magical in the sense that time slows down, and in that 1 second you can see mind and matter arise and pass away. Like that small 1 second, it becomes expanded to something very big, and you can see everything so clearly at the moment to moment level. This is what I was thinking.
No, that is one way, but you will be able to penetrate the Paticamutpada in everything. So however you want to put it, it doesn't matter. If you are able to see the 12 links, then you are in game.
Okay, I got what you mean. So it's possible to see the 12 links also in that way.
Yes, absolutely. Like, it can be anything. Even this class what I am taking, I can see the Paticamutpada. Now, Avijja Pachaya Sankhara from onwards, still that and how you can come out of it. So both Anuloma and Patiloma can be seen.
Okay, I got it. I got your point. I mean, and you've also given a good example too, that you can actually see dependent origination in everything.
Yes.
In a way, I mean, not in a way, it is correct, but I just put this idea in my head that seeing dependent origination is only seeing this 12 links at the moment to moment level, and what I just said. But yeah, I get your point. I understood.
Yeah, there is a formula before that. The Paticamutpada 12 links is an example, but Paticamutpada has a formula. This formula you should not forget in your life. The formula here is iti imasmim sati idam hoti imassa uppada idam upajjati. This is the Pali word. If I were to translate it, it works like this. Iti imasmim sati. If this is true, imasa upada, that will arise, idam upajjati, along with this being there. Iti imasmim asati idam na hoti. If this doesn't arise, if this is not there, imassa nirodha idam nirujjati. This or that will not arise, and that will not, or this will not happen. So with the dependent of this, that happens. That is what it means. Meaning, if karma has to function, you need nama and rupa to, in the first place, for the karma to have. If there is no nama and rupa, then there is no karma at all. So you get into cessation immediately. And because of that, he gives this example of avidya pachay sankhara, sankhara pachay vijnana, like that. But the first definition comes with a formula. So it's called as ida pachayata. That is what paticca samutpada is all about. And the formula is iti imasmim sati idam hoti, imassa upada idam upajjati, iti imasmim asati idam na hoti, imassa nirodha idam nirujjati. This formula you should correctly understand in your language. English, it creates some disturbances. If this not there, and that will not happen, and that not there, this will not happen. So it might create a, like this circular, what I can say, reference kind of thing. But going by your own language, once you read that and you try to investigate, you will pick it up, saying, wow, this is what it is. And if you get that, it's beautiful, then you will get rid of, I mean, you will be able to see paticca in everything.
Yeah, understood. Thanks for the explanation.
Yeah, so this one you need to practice, Valerio, that this one, what I just now explained, that one you need to. This is covered in a sutta called as, in Samyukta Nikaya 12.49, called as Arya Savaka Sutta. I suggest you read it once. So it goes like this. I will read it in Pali, and I will also give you in English. I'll read it very slowly so that all of you can understand. Na bhikkhave sutavato arya savakassa evam hoti kim nu ko kismim sati kim hoti kimassa upada kim upajjati kimasmim sati sankhara honti kimasmim sati vijnanam honti kimasmim sati namarupam honti, and etc. So the English translation is, because a noble disciple is not confused by the question, what in the mind becomes a cause? Kim nu ko kimasmim sati kim hoti? What in the mind becomes a cause? With the existence of what in the mind does what come into being? Kimasmim sati kimasmim sati kim hoti, kimasuppada kim uppajjati. With the existence of what in the mind does what come into being? What in the mind becomes a cause of sankhara? What in the mind becomes a cause of vijnana? What in the mind becomes a cause for namarupa, etc.? So he answers here, Atako bhikkhave sutavato arya savakassa parapachaya nana me vetha hoti imasmim sati idam hoti imassa upada idam upajjati. Because the noble disciple knows that what arises is dependent on what is cultivated in the mind. When this exists in the mind, that comes to be. With the arising of this in the mind, that arises. Example, when there is ignorance in the mind, sankhara comes to be. And when there is sankhara in the mind, vijnana comes to be. When there is vijnana in the mind, Nama Rupa comes to be, and so on. So he gives that. Then he says, Na bhikkhave sutavato arya savakassa evam hoti kim nu ko kimasmim asati kim na hoti kissa nirodha kim nirujjati kimasmim asati sankhara na honti kimasmim asati vinyanam na honti kimasmim asati nama rupam na hoti. Like that. Because a noble disciple is not confused by the question, absence of what in the mind would not be the cause. With the cessation of what in the mind, what would be stopped from arising? Absence of what in the mind, sankhara would not result. Like that. Then he says as an answer, Attako bhikkhave sutavato arya savakassa aparapachaya jnanam mevat hoti imasmim asatidam na hoti imassa nirodha idam nirujjati avijjaya asati sankhara na honti sankhareshu asati vinyanam na hoti vinyane asati namarupa na hoti. That means Bhikkhu, the noble disciple, knows that what arises is dependent on what is cultivated in the mind. When this does not exist in the mind, that would not come to be. With the cessation of this in the mind, that is stopped from arising. So let me give you a very easy example which can be used for practice. How does a wife come to be? Or how does a husband come to be? How does a friend come to be? How does an enemy come to be? This is the question. With the arising of that, when this exists in the mind, that comes to be. With the arising of this in the mind, that arises. When a person is named as husband, and the feeling of husband arises, and because of that husband gets formed, and that is how sankhara is created. I'll again repeat. With the person coming in and named as husband, the feeling of husband arises, or rather an identity of husband arises. Just like a person is given a badge and the badge is written husband, and there's another badge given to a woman and said wife. And how does the niruddha or nirodha happens? With the absence of that badge, there is no longer anything to identify. With that identification gone, that object is also gone. There is no husband, or there is no wife. If there is a husband, then that husband is going to die. If there is a wife, the wife is going to die. If there is a friend, the friend is going to die. If there is an enemy, the enemy is going to die. If there were no designation or the badge, then nobody is dying. This is how the Paticca Samutpada is all about. With the absence of this, that doesn't arise. With the presence of this, that arises. The presence of what to what arises. Presence of a name called husband, husband arises. So, iti imasmim sati. Sati means exist. Asati means doesn't exist. When this exists and that arises. So with the arising of this, that arises. Without the arising of this, that doesn't arise. Iti imasmim sati idam hoti. When this exists in the mind, that comes to be. When the husband name is existing in the mind, husband comes to be. With the arising of this, that is, with the arising of husband in the mind, husband takes shape. Actually, there is no body of an husband, and there is no body as a wife. There is no body called as Vilas. It's a name. Anybody can be given the name Vilas, but it's just an identifier. So if there are 5 Vilas were to be there, and somebody calls Vilas, all the 5 will turn back. Unless somebody uses the surname and say, hey, it is Vilas Deshmukh and Vilas Khandelwal, or Vilas Kadiwal and Vilas something else like that, and then there is no problem. If just the first name were to be called of 5 people, Vilas, all the 5 will turn back because they don't know which Vilas they are calling. That's the stupidity of it. So with the existence of this in the mind, that comes to be. So with the existence of Vilas, the name comes to be, the identification comes to be. With the arising of Vilas in the mind, Vilas as an identity arises. So now if you were to have a cessation, that doesn't arise. So with the cessation of this in the mind, that is cessation of Vilas not being there. It's so nice. So there is no avidya pachay sankhara. Avidya yatveva asesa viraga nirodha. So there is a viraga and nirodha of Vilas. If asesa viraga nirodha has happened, sankhara nirodha. Now there is no sankhara. Sankhara is willful action. So now I am not willfully calling myself as Vilas. Sankhara nirodha, vinyana nirodha. Now that identity of turning back the body doesn't arise. Vinyana nirodha, namarupa nirodha. Now there is no namarupa. Namarupa nirodha, salayatana nirodha. That is sixth sense door doesn't have any feeling, anything happening there, any connection happening there. Salayatana nirodha, vedana nirodha. So there is no feeling. Sukha vedana or dukkha vedana or whatever it is. Vedana nirodha, tanha nirodha. There is no craving for Vilas. Tanha nirodha, upadana nirodha. So there is no grasping onto the name. With the upadana nirodha, bhava nirodha. So there is no becoming of Vilas. Bhava nirodha, jati nirodha. There is no birth. Jati nirodha, jara, marana, soka, parideva, dukkha, domanasa, upayasa, nirodha. That is, with the cessation of birth, the old age or aging, jara, marana, death, soka, grief, parideva, lamentation, dukkha, body pain, domanasa, mental disagreeableness or mental pain, if you can put it, upayasa, helplessness, sambhavanti, it's not going to be there. So you have known the anuloma, that is how something arises, and patiloma, how something departs. So you can see both of them. And avidya is gone. Now, when we are able to see it, this stage is from Sakadagami to Anagami, and at the time of an Arhat Phala Samapatti, the person is established perfectly in Patisamutpada in everything, at all the time. So he doesn't create any one of the Akusala Patisamutpada cycle at all. Does that answer, Valerio?
So yeah, that's a very good example. Again, I guess the mistake that I've been making is that I had the preconceived notion that that dependent origination cannot be explained with such a simple example. But thinking upon it, yes, it makes sense. I mean, I'll be definitely watching this video again and contemplating on this simple thing. I mean, I was always thinking it's something complicated, but yes, I understand your point in the way, for example, I have friend A and I have friend B, and friend A has so and so impression of me, which I know, and friend B has so and so impression of me, which are slightly different. So when I meet with friend A, it's like I reinforce this impression that particular friend has with me, and if I meet with the other person, I'm a slightly different person. Yeah, I get what you're trying to. I get what you're trying to say, but I was not thinking in these simpler terms that you can always see it in everything.
Yeah, you can actually see it in everything, right from eating, right from wearing your clothes to everything.
Yeah, I mean, I get it now. I was always, again, unnecessarily thinking in more abstract terms and not just contemplating the simple things.
Yeah.
I had another question. You mentioned it brilliantly. I didn't even realize that you compared Nibbana to something. Again, I'll rewatch the video, but you compared Nibbana or when the mind gets some sort of peace, where it feels refreshed. And I've had this experience. For example, sometimes I get up and I know I haven't slept very well, then I have a horrible headache, all painful sensations. But then if I meditate, it goes, it's as though I've slept. I mean, in the past I could not do this. Like in the past, for example, if I did not sleep and then if I meditate, it was basically like a form of torture. But now it's like if I don't sleep and if I meditate, it's literally like the mind becomes refreshed, and sometimes I'm sort of confused. Like if I'm tired, should I sleep? Should I meditate? What exactly is sleep? Is it even necessary? But the trick is that I cannot do it with open eyes. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why. I can't exactly pinpoint my finger on what is it that is causing the mind to become refreshed.
No, you are getting refreshed because that you find traces of peace. And any traces of peace means there is no conditionality. Simple. And that's the reason you will never know. If you were to know why there is peace, then it is again conditioned.
Fascinating. I mean, brilliant answer. You answered.
See, I go to let us say I go to a beach and I'm feeling happy, and somebody asks me, why are you feeling happy? So what should I say?
Yeah.
Then I can say sand is beautiful, and I can say the beach is the water is beautiful, or the waves are beautiful, or the sunrise is beautiful, or sunset is beautiful. But that person pesters more and says that, tell me in real terms, is the sun really beautiful? What should I answer?
I don't know.
You can't, because if it was true, then it becomes Sankata again, conditioned. You're feeling joy, but you can't really define what is that joy. And joy turns into a peace. So you are unperturbed by what is happening outside of you. So let's say since you're a Goan, and let's say you're gone to the beach and you're sitting and watching the sunset, and you forget all about yourself. And time passes away. You're literally in Nibbana. And you might not agree that is Nibbana, that is secondary, because you are expecting something else to happen there. So you need to refer to Mahavidyala Sutta. That's exactly what you would feel. When there is no raga, there is no dvesha, there is no moha. When you are enjoying the scenery without naming it, without aspiring for the next moment it should be like this or like that, without hating what you're seeing, and you're lost totally, you don't exist. And that is Nibbana. It looks really mundane, but that's the beautiful way of explaining how to experience Nibbana. Otherwise, there is no other way to explain. Then I have to go back to that sutta where it says that there is no perception and there is no feeling, and you sit. Now you will, or if I'm in your position, I'm going to think that there's something crazy going to happen to me after I sit. And another thing, to experience Nibbana at a very in every part of your life, you need to remove the 10 immoral deeds. 3 in the body, 3 in the mind, and 4 in speech. 4 plus 3, 7 plus 3, 10. If you are able to do that, you're able to establish in that, then you can be Nibbana almost instantly in every given situation.
Yeah, thank you. That explains a lot.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody else other than Valerio? Today it is dedicated to Valerio. That doesn't mean that others cannot ask any question. So we are talking on Nibbana, how to experience and what it is. So if you have any questions, we can continue. Otherwise, we can end also.
Sorry, sir. Just one last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
At the beginning of the lecture, you had said that if somebody is not a Sotapanna, he actually has no access to this whatsoever.
No. About what? About that? About Warren Buffett? You're talking about?
No, not that. You had said that Nibbana is the experience when you have this type of, with this type of peace. Obviously, I cannot describe it because then it would be conditioned. So, and like you just now gave an example, you can experience it any time at the beach, at any time. But my question is can only a Sotapanna? Do you have to have an attainment to experience it, or can any normal person experience it who knows nothing about Buddha Dhamma, this type of peace?
See, everybody experiences peace. Let's understand that. Irrespective of the religion, irrespective of tradition, irrespective of Buddha Dhamma or no Buddha Dhamma, it doesn't matter. Everybody experiences peace. This layer of peace, or whatever peace we find, is of 5 senses. Now, to go beyond that, you need to have some Dhamma of something. It can be, even in the Christian world, you have certain things which helps to get relief. And in the Hindu also there is, in Zoroastrian and in Hebrew and all kind of tradition you have. What's unique about Buddha Dhamma is that it lays down the step on how you should do it. So that becomes more concrete than any other tradition or any other way of doing things. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the peace of heart, what is actually called as peace at heart, cannot be experienced, but they cannot be sustained also. It just comes and goes, and you have no idea how to access it back, how to again get to that state. And that is not known. That a person with Buddha Dhamma can experience it again and again and again. That's a difference. And the deeper experience is possible with Buddha Dhamma than any other, because then you get stuck. You have no idea how to proceed now in the other tradition. So the person has to struggle. He doesn't know, like this is in this way, Valerio. Now you know you are able to go to deep sleep. Do you know how to go to deep sleep by any chance? I don't think so. Anybody knows it.
No, absolutely no.
Nobody knows it, right?
You're correct.
Buddha Dhamma teaches you how to go into deep sleep. Simple as that. That's the most easiest answer I can give. That doesn't mean that nobody is in deep sleep, right?
Correct.
But nobody knows how they go into deep sleep.
Correct. Yeah, you answered the question.
Yeah, I might be praying to Jesus and I might go to deep sleep. I might be praying Buddha, might go to deep sleep. I might be praying Krishna and I can go to deep sleep, and I'm praying to Allah and going to deep sleep. It doesn't really matter. All of us go to deep sleep. And we are ignorant of the deep sleep itself. That is asankata. A clear asankata, because there are no senses. So the Indriya Bhavana Sutta and all that what Buddha talks about is to have the conditionality removed. All these senses create conditions. So to remove the condition, it's exactly what is happening when you enter into deep sleep. Isn't it happiness when you sleep? Yes or no?
Yes, actually, since you started the lecture, since you mentioned sleep, I've always, in my experience, the best state is sleep. Forget anything else. Forget all the senses, forget woman, everything. Sleep is just the best. Because the mind is not dragged. I think, like you said in some earlier lecture, whether it's grief, also a problem. But if the mind is excited and you get what you want, that is also a problem. Because then the mind just keeps on going in some loop. Yes, I got it. Oh, yes, I feel so good about myself. But that itself is a tension in the mind. All this nonsense is not there in sleep.
Yes. So the basic underlying fact, if you see, you don't even exist in sleep, no matter who you are. You can't even identify. Can you identify when you sleep? Oh, I am so and so. No. That's exactly what he is also saying. Avidya is that. So once we try to see four elements, you are in deep sleep while waking. Now you are in permanent Nibbana, because that is the only Sukha. And that doesn't mean that there ends it. And that's the reason Mula Pariyaya Sutta is very important. Because now you can't latch on to that Nibbana and say, yeah, I am Nibbana. That's also wrong. You have to let go of that. Then the complete release happens. Nibbana is the only Sukha. There is no other Sukha than Nibbana. There is no other Sukha than deep sleep. No matter what you do. Deep sleep is really Sukha. Because there is no condition attached in deep sleep. But once you are awakened, you getting to sleep, you don't know whether you are going to get sleep or not. But while in deep sleep, there is nothing. Okay, all right then. It's already 9:42. Any other question before we end? hope you're okay. Shall we end?
No question from my side. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Bhavesh.
Sir,
Yeah.
when we forget the time and feeling, that is also Nibbana.
You forget time where?
When we listen to music or we listen to music, or when we walk and we forget how much we walk.
No. That is not. No, that is still conditioned.
It's a condition. Then Nibbana is then the happy feeling should be there, blissful feeling should be there.
No, the blissful feeling as in like in deep sleep, right? That's some peace which comes. So you have tasted what is peace. So this song or walk or jogging or bungee jumping or going on flight and this and that gives you the limited blissful state which is sensual driven. All senses gives you that enjoyable state, and that's the reason we are attached to the senses.
Okay. Then we forget the time or when we are
Yes.
cooking, that is also condition.
Yes, that is also condition. So there is two dhatus. One is a condition which is sankata, and another one is unconditioned, asankata.
So without any reason we should feel blissful.
Exactly.
Without any action, without any thought.
Yes, without any thought, without any action, without any expectation, without anything at all, without patisamutpada cycle.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure. Very good and appropriate question, Swati. Any other question, Bhavesh, Kalpana?
No, sir. Thank you, sir. It was a very good session. Really, I'm tending to credit you because of his questions, I think so that I'm getting very close to understanding.
Sure. Very nice. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay then. Good night. Namo Buddhaya. Yeah, we will
Thank you,
meet.
sir.
Yeah, sure, and we will
Very
meet
good. It
tomorrow.
was a very good lecture.
No problem.
This was, I think I never found something like this online before. Although I have not actually tried searching, but no, I never heard anything like this before. It was very fantastic.
But one more thing is that when we talk very sweetly, it is no voice, that means we got the Shotapada.
I did not understand.
That means our people are talking very softly, low voice, with lot of love. This is the thing that we reach to Sotapanna. You explain many times that Sotapanna state, but I'm talking about when we reach that we are really talking in a low
No, it has got nothing to do with low voice and sweet voice and all that. The person is able
nothing to do with it. Okay.
No, the person.
Because I have got very hard voice, and sometimes I feel that it should be a very good and sweet voice.
No.
But still I can't take it.
No.
Because of shouting and while teaching also my voice raised and I got tired, and that is why the voice has become so rough.
No, it is fine.
So I thought that
No, it is fine. See, it has got nothing to do with sweet voice. Basically, what happens, Swati, is that who is a Sotapanna? The person who has come on the stream and he understand or she understand. Like in your case, you understand Buddha Dhamma, and that is what is means Sotapanna. And the major difference is you will come to know what is Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. These five aggregates. And if you have understood it, then you are Sotapanna. There is nothing more to Sotapanna than that. Okay. Now,
okay, sir. Thank you.
now your voice change. I will also explain to you when that happens.
Okay. That means nothing is going to change like that.
Yeah, no, the voice change, that is you become a very peaceful person
Okay.
when you don't have Kamaraga and Patigha, then your voice becomes real sweet.
Okay.
It's not your volume, it's not your hard sound or soft sound, no. Even with a hard voice, with a great decibel, people will find you a very soft natured person.
Okay. And then fine to hear me, right?
Yes, they would love to hear you. They would love to hear you.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, sure. And that happens as part of Anagami Phala Samapatti.
Okay. That means you have reached that stage because they feel like hearing you.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, you
It is the same thing.
yes. So you somehow made me to tell you that where I stand.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, sure. All right then. Good night, everyone, and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.